When the Syndicate came knocking, the massive alien ship hung in Earth's orbit like a dark omen, its hull stretching nearly 5 kilometers from end to end. Commander Elena Vasquez stood at the observation deck of Luna Station, watching the vessel. Through reinforced glass that seemed far too thin for comfort, the ship's design was unlike anything in human records: smooth, organic curves mixed with angular metal protrusions that glowed with an eerie purple light. "Ma'am, they're requesting permission to dock," reported Lieutenant David Chang, his voice betraying the nervousness they all felt. The young communications officer had been monitoring alien frequencies for the past 3 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Elena nodded slowly, her dark eyes never leaving the alien vessel. At 38, she had risen through the ranks of Earth's diplomatic corps faster than anyone in history. Her background in both military strategy and xenobiology made her the perfect choice to handle humanity's first contact with advanced alien civilizations. But as she watched the ship position itself near the docking bay, she wondered if any amount of training could have prepared her for this. "And grant them permission," she said quietly, and alert President Chen immediately. "Tell him our visitors have arrived." The ship that docked was not the massive vessel in orbit, but a smaller craft that emerged from its belly like a metal seed. Even this shuttle was larger than Earth's biggest space stations, its hull gleaming with technology that human scientists could only dream of understanding. As the airlock sealed and atmosphere equalized, Elena felt the weight of humanity's future settling on her shoulders. The alien that emerged was nothing like the gray humanoids of popular fiction. Ambassador Zexnine stood nearly 3 meters tall, his body resembling a cross between a praying mantis and a crystal formation. His skin was translucent blue, revealing internal organs that pulsed with bioluminescent light. 4 arms extended from his torso, each ending in hands with 7 delicate fingers. Most unsettling were his eyes, multifaceted orbs that seemed to see everything at once. "Greetings, primitive species," Zexnine spoke through a translation device that hung around his neck like jewelry. His voice was melodic but cold, like wind chimes in a frozen wasteland. "I am Ambassador Zexny of the Cosmic Syndicate. I bring terms for your world's survival." Lena stepped forward, her military training keeping her posture straight despite the intimidating presence before her. "Welcome to Luna Station, Ambassador. I'm Commander Elena Vasquez, representing Earth's government. We are honored by your visit." Zexnine's head tilted, and his eyes seemed to shimmer with amusement. Honor is an interesting concept for a species facing extinction. "Shall we proceed to business?" The conference room had been hastily prepared for this meeting. Earth's finest diplomatic minds sat around the table: President Marcus Chen, Secretary of Defense Angela Wright, and Dr. Sarah Kim, Earth's leading quantum physicist. Each face showed the strain of knowing that the next few hours might determine whether humanity survived its entry into galactic civilization. President Chen, former engineer turned politician, leaned forward as Zexnine began his presentation. "The Cosmic Syndicate represents 15 advanced species spanning 3,000 star systems." The alien explained as holographic images filled the air above the table. "We maintain order and prosperity throughout this region of the galaxy." Images showed vast fleets of ships, sprawling space cities, and worlds covered in gleaming metropolises. It was a display of power meant to overwhelm and intimidate. Elena noticed how each image emphasized the Syndicate's military might and technological superiority. "Your species has reached the threshold of interstellar capability," Zexnine continued. "This qualifies you for inclusion in our protection network. The terms are simple and non-negotiable." Dr. Sarah Kim, her silver hair tied back in a neat bun, leaned forward intently. At 45, she was humanity's most brilliant theoretical physicist, the mind behind Earth's quantum communication arrays and experimental faster-than-light drives. Her presence at this meeting was not coincidental. She understood better than anyone what humanity was truly capable of. "Protection from what?" President Chen asked, though Elena suspected they all knew the answer. "ZEX-9, single quotes as mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "From us naturally," The galaxy is vast and dangerous. Young species that attempt to expand without proper guidance tend to ... disappear. Pirates, hostile aliens, cosmic phenomena, so many threats await the unprepared. Secretary Wright, a career military officer with steel-gray eyes, spoke up. And the cost of this protection? Modest, Zexnine replied, though his tone suggested otherwise. 90% of your planetary resources to be delivered annually. Your species may retain the remaining 10% for basic survival needs. The silence that followed was deafening. Alina felt her blood turn to ice as the alien's words sank in. 90% of Earth's resources would mean the death of billions. Reducing humanity to a subsistent species barely clinging to survival. That's impossible, President Chen said slowly. Our people would starve. Evolution is often cruel, Zexnine replied without emotion. The weak perish so the strong may thrive. However, the Syndicate is not unreasonable. We offer two alternatives too. Resource tribute. Alina noticed Dr. Kim making subtle notes on her tablet, her fingers moving in patterns that seemed random but which Alina recognized as a code they had developed for sensitive situations. First alternative, Zexnine continued, your species may provide military service. 50% of your population between the ages of 16 and 40 will serve in Syndicate forces for 20-year terms. They will be well-fed and properly equipped. Slavery, Secretary Wright said flatly. Employment, Zexnine corrected. The second alternative is complete integration. Your species abandons its primitive world and distributes itself throughout Syndicate. Space, where individuals may find work in various capacities.
Alina felt sick.
The alien was describing the complete destruction of human civilization, presented as generous alternatives to slow starvation. And if we refuse all these options, Zexnine's eyes flickered with something that might have been approval. Then your species faces quarantine. No trade, no contact, no assistance from galactic civilization. You will remain trapped in this system while your primitive technology fails to sustain your growing population. Most species choose compliance. Within a decade. President Chen looked around the table at his advisors. Alina could see the calculation in his eyes, the impossible math of choosing how humanity would die. How long do we have to decide? 30 standard days, Zexnine replied. I will remain in your system to facilitate the transition and ensure compliance. Do not consider this a negotiation. 47 species have received these terms. 47 species have chosen survival through service to the Syndicate. After Zexnine departed for his ship, the human delegation sat in stunned silence. It was Dr. Kim who spoke first, her voice steady despite the circumstances. He's lying about something. Lena looked up sharply. What do you mean? The numbers don't add up, Sarah explained, consulting her notes. 47 species with populations large enough to be useful, all within the last century. The galaxy isn't that densely populated with intelligent life. Either they're exaggerating their success, or they're not telling us how they really expand their empire, Secretary Wright finished. President Chen rubbed his temples, looking every one of his 60 years. Does it matter? Even if we could fight them, that ship out there could probably glass our entire planet. Alina stood and walked to the window, looking out at the alien vessel. Something nagged at her about the entire encounter. Sarah, you were monitoring their ship's emissions during the meeting. Anything unusual? Dr. Kim nodded, pulling up data on her tablet. Their quantum signatures are off. The ship's power output is massive, but the efficiency ratings are terrible. They're using brute force technology rather than elegant solutions, meaning they might not be as advanced as they want us to think. Their translation technology is crude, almost like they reverse-engineered it from somewhere else. And their ship design. Sarah paused, studying the readings. Alina, I think they're using stolen technology. Implications hit Alina like a physical blow. If the Syndicate was built on stolen technology rather than original innovation, it suggested something far more sinister than simple galactic imperialism. It meant they were parasites, feeding off the creativity and resources of other species. We need to know more, Alina said quietly. Sarah, can you analyze their communication protocols without them detecting it? Already on it, the physicist replied with a grim smile. I've been recording everything since they arrived. Give me 12 hours and I'll know how their systems work. President Chen looked between the two women. Are you suggesting we fight? I'm suggesting we learn everything we can before we make any decisions, Alina replied. Humanity didn't survive ice ages and world wars by rolling over the first time someone stronger came along. Over the next week, a curious dance began between the humans and their visitors. Publicly, Earth's government appeared to be in complete disarray. News broadcasts showed panicked crowds, government officials arguing loudly, and what seemed to be a complete breakdown in Earth's response to the Syndicate's demands. But beneath the surface, a different kind of preparation was taking place. Dr. Kim worked around the clock with her team, dissecting every piece of data they could gather about Syndicate technology. What she found was both encouraging and terrifying. They're definitely using stolen tech, she reported to a secret meeting in an underground bunker beneath the Pentagon. But here's the scary part. They're very good at stealing it. Their ship contains technology from at least 12 different species. Alina studied the analysis on her screen. 12 species they've conquered, or absorbed, Sarah corrected. The pattern suggests they take over civilizations not just for resources, but for their technological knowledge. Each conquest makes them stronger. Secretary Wright leaned back in her chair. So we're not just fighting for our freedom. We're fighting to prevent them from getting stronger. There's more, Sarah continued. I've been monitoring their internal communications. They're not just demanding tribute from us. They're planning to study our quantum research very carefully. Alina felt a chill run down her spine. Earth's quantum technology was humanity's greatest achievement, the result of decades of brilliant work by scientists like Sarah. If the Syndicate got their hands on it, they'd be able to communicate instantaneously across galactic distances, Alina said slowly. Control their empire more effectively. Worse than that, Sarah replied. Our quantum entanglement research is about 50 years ahead of anything I've seen in their technology. If they steal it, they could locate and conquer species before those civilizations even know they exist. The room fell silent as the full implications sank in. This wasn't just about Earth's survival anymore. It was about preventing the Syndicate from gaining the tools they needed to dominate the entire galaxy. President Chen finally spoke. Are our options? Alina had been thinking about this question for days. We could run, pack up our best people and technology, find somewhere to hide in the outer systems. Leaving 8 billion people to die, Wright said flatly. Or we could fight, Alina continued. But not the way they expect. Explain. Alina stood and activated a holographic display showing the Syndicate ship in orbit. They've conquered 47 species using the same playbook. Superior technology. Overwhelming force. Impossible demands. Every civilization they've faced has either submitted or been destroyed. So how do we break the pattern? President Chen asked. Alina smiled for the first time since the aliens arrived. We cheat. Dr. Kim looked up with interest. How? They expect us to be either completely submissive or completely defiant. But what if we're neither? What if we appear to submit while actually preparing something they've never seen before? Sarah's eyes lit up with understanding. A Trojan horse strategy. Exactly. We give them what they think they want while preparing something that will turn their entire system against them. Secretary Wright frowned. That's incredibly dangerous. If they discover what we're really doing, then we're no worse off than we are now, Alina replied. But if it works, we might save not just humanity, but every other species the Syndicate has enslaved. Over the following days, Earth's government began implementing what they called Operation Prometheus. On the surface, humanity appeared to be slowly accepting their fate. Government officials made public statements about difficult but necessary sacrifices and finding our place in galactic civilization. But in hidden facilities around the world, the real work was beginning. Dr. Kim's team wasn't just studying Syndicate technology, they were improving it. Human engineering, combined with quantum physics breakthroughs, was producing innovations that even the Syndicate hadn't imagined. Alina met with X9 regularly, playing the role of a defeated commander, trying to negotiate the best possible terms for her species. The aliens seemed pleased with humanity's apparent capitulation, often speaking condescendingly about how quickly humans had learned their place. "Your species shows wisdom," X9 told her during one of their meetings. "Many civilizations waste valuable time and resources fighting the inevitable. You have chosen survival over pride." Alina bowed her head submissively. "We are a young species. We have much to learn from our betters." But even as she spoke the words that made her stomach turn, Alina was memorizing every detail of the aliens' behavior, technology, and casual comments about other syndicate operations. Every piece of information was another weapon in humanity's growing arsenal. As the 30-day deadline approached, Earth prepared for the most important performance in human history. To the galaxy, they would appear to be just another species that had learned to bow before a superior force. But beneath that facade, humanity was preparing to show the Syndicate and the galaxy what humans were truly capable of when they refused to give up. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reshape galactic civilization. The Syndicate thought they were gaining another tributary species and access to valuable quantum technology. They had no idea they were about to face humanity's greatest strength: the refusal to accept that the game was rigged when they could change the rules instead. The art of looking. Captain Rex Thompson stood on the bridge of the cargo vessel, New Horizon, watching as Syndicate Inspector Velfor examined their tribute shipment. The alien was smaller than Ambassador X9, a silver skin that rippled like liquid mercury, and 6 spider-like legs that allowed it to climb over cargo containers with unsettling grace. To any observer, Rex appeared to be a nervous merchant captain, anxious to please his new alien overlords. The truth was far different. Rex was a former Navy SEAL who had spent the last 3 years training with Earth's most elite military units. The New Horizon was not a merchant vessel, but a cutting-edge warship disguised as obsolete human technology, and the cargo containers Velfor was inspecting contained some of the most sophisticated espionage equipment ever created. "These power cells are primitive," Velfor commented, its voice a whistling sound that the translator rendered as condescending amusement. "Your species' energy storage is inefficient." Rex nodded eagerly, playing his part. "Yes, honored Inspector. We hope the Syndicate can teach us better ways. Our technology is very basic." What Velfor couldn't detect was that each primitive power cell contained a quantum transmitter designed by Dr. Sarah Kim's team. The devices were so advanced that they existed partially outside normal space-time, making them invisible to any known scanning technology. As the Syndicate distributed Earth's tribute throughout their empire, they would unknowingly be seeding their entire civilization with humanity's eyes and ears. Back on Earth, Dr. James Park watched the inspection through hidden cameras, taking notes on Syndicate scanning procedures. At 52, James was officially listed as the head of Earth's civilian research program, a collection of seemingly harmless projects focused on agriculture and medicine. In reality, he commanded the most advanced military research division in human history. "Quantum transmitters are holding up perfectly," he reported to Alina Vasquez during their daily briefing. "Velfor has examined them 3 times and found nothing suspicious." Alina nodded, but her expression remained tense. They were walking a tightrope over an abyss, and one mistake could doom not just their mission, but their entire species. "About the secondary objective?" James smiled grimly. "That's where things get interesting. Remember how we thought the Syndicate was using stolen technology? We were right, but it's worse than we imagined." The secondary objective was intelligence gathering. While Rex's crew played the role of submissive tribute bearers, they were also cataloging everything they observed about Syndicate technology and operations. What they had discovered was deeply disturbing. "Show me," Alina said. James activated a holographic display showing the interior of the Syndicate inspection ship. "Look at their equipment closely. The scanning devices are clearly Altarian in design. We can tell from the crystalline power matrices. The gravity generators are Kepler technology, probably stolen from their orbital cities." Even their translation software appears to be modified from a dozen different sources. Alina studied the images with growing unease. They're not an advanced civilization at all. They're parasites, James confirmed. The Syndicate takes the best technology from each species they conquer, then uses that stolen knowledge to conquer the next target. Each victory makes them more powerful. This revelation had profound implications for Operation Prometheus. The Syndicate wasn't just oppressing other species. They were systematically stripping away their technological advantages and incorporating them into their own forces. It explained how they had managed to build such a vast empire despite their clearly inefficient approach to innovation. There's more, James continued. We've identified communication protocols they use to contact their other tributary species. Alina, we could potentially reach out to every civilization they've conquered. Alina felt her pulse quicken. How many are we talking about? At least 47, possibly more. A species scattered across 3,000 star systems, all of them forced to serve the Syndicate's expansion. The implications were staggering. If humanity could coordinate with the Syndicate's other victims, they might not have to face the alien empire alone. But it would require expanding their deception to a galactic scale. Meanwhile, Admiral Lisa Rodriguez was overseeing the most ambitious construction project in human history. Officially, she didn't exist. Her identity was classified at levels that most governments couldn't access. Unofficially, she commanded Operation Lighthouse, the secret militarization of humanity's space infrastructure. The Syndicate believed that Earth's space capabilities were limited to a few orbital stations and primitive exploration vessels. They had no idea that humans had been building hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt for the past decade, or that Earth's obsolete communications network was actually a quantum entanglement array capable of coordinating operations across interstellar distances. Status report, Lisa requested as she reviewed construction progress on her command ship, hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid between Mars and Jupiter. Commander Sarah Walsh, her second-in-command, consulted her tactical display. We now have 68 vessels fully operational with another 42 nearing completion. Each ship is equipped with the new quantum shielding and weapon systems. The vessels under construction look nothing like the crude rockets and shuttles that the Syndicate had observed around Earth. These ships incorporated the most advanced human technology, enhanced with insights gained from studying alien systems. They were faster, more maneuverable, far more heavily armed than anything the Syndicate expected from a primitive species. And the other preparations? Lisa asked. All hidden installations are operational. Weapon platforms throughout the solar system are disguised and ready. Syndicate has no idea they're surrounded. But the most critical element of their preparation was happening in the quantum laboratories hidden beneath major cities around Earth. Dr. Sarah Kim had made a breakthrough that would change everything. I've cracked their command protocols, Sarah announced during an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership. Every Syndicate ship, every installation, every piece of their infrastructure uses the same quantum signature for communication and control. Alina leaned forward, meaning that, with the right frequency modulation, we could potentially take control of their entire network. Ships, weapons, even life support systems. President Chen looked skeptical. Seems too easy. It's not easy at all, Sarah replied. It requires precise quantum manipulation across interstellar distances, coordinated timing down to the nanosecond, and enough processing power to handle thousands of simultaneous connections. But it's possible. Alina felt pieces of a larger plan clicking into place. How long would you need to prepare? Give me 2 weeks and access to our quantum array. I can build a virus that will spread through their entire command structure in minutes. The plan that emerged from these discoveries was audacious, even by human standards. Earth would continue to appear submissive while secretly preparing for a coordinated strike that would target every Syndicate asset simultaneously. They would use the aliens' own infrastructure against them, turning their vast empire into a liability rather than an advantage. But first, they needed to contact the other enslaved species. Rex Thompson found himself volunteering for the most dangerous mission of his career. His ship would travel to 3 different Syndicate tribute collection points, ostensibly delivering resources from Earth. In reality, He would be attempting to make contact with representatives from other conquered civilizations. The first stop was a mining operation in the Arcturus system, where the native Stellans had been reduced to working in the mines of their own homeworld. Rex's contact was Foreman Keth9, a being that resembled a walking crystal formation with multiple sensory nodes. "Earth sends greetings to the stellar people," Rex said carefully, using a phrase that Dr. Kim had designed to sound like innocent diplomatic courtesy while actually containing a hidden quantum signature. Keth9's reaction was immediate and startling. The alien's crystal structure began resonating at a frequency that the human translation devices could barely process. "You know the old words," Keth9 whispered. "How is this possible? Your species has only just fallen to the Syndicate." Rex felt his heart racing. "Perhaps some things are not as they appear, friend." Over the next hour, speaking in carefully, coded language that would sound like routine cargo discussions to any Syndicate monitors, Rex and Keth9 exchanged information that horrified both of them. The Stellans had been mining their own planet for 30 years, watching their world slowly die as the Syndicate stripped away its resources. They had tried rebellion twice, only to see their resistance crushed by ships using technology stolen from other conquered species. "My people remember the stars," Keth9 said sadly. "We once built vessels that could cross galaxies, and we dig in darkness." "The darkness may not last forever," Rex replied carefully. "Sometimes the smallest light can illuminate the greatest space." The second contact was even more dangerous. In the Vega system, Rex met with Captain Yelatu of the Aquarian Naval Forces. The Aquarians were an aquatic species whose homeworld had been partially drained to provide water for Syndicate colonies. Yelatu was a proud warrior whose species had been reduced to operating water processing facilities. The meeting took place in the depths of an artificial ocean aboard a Syndicate station. Rex wore a pressure suit, while Yelatu communicated through bioluminescent patterns that his translation software could barely interpret. "Your species fights without fighting," Yelatu observed after Rex had delivered his coded message. "This is wisdom my people forgot. We tried to meet force with force." "Force has its place," Rex replied, "but sometimes the current that seems weakest can carve the deepest channel." Yelatu's response was a complex pattern of lights that the translator rendered as bitter laughter. "The Syndicate uses our own water against us. They flood the worlds of species that resist too strongly. Billions drown in seas stolen from our home." The third contact nearly got Rex killed. The Drakmari were a warrior species that had been conquered only 5 years earlier. Their representative, War Chief Zanuck, was so filled with rage that he almost attacked Rex on sight, mistaking him for a Syndicate collaborator. "You wear the face of submission?" Zanuck snarled, his reptilian features twisted with contempt. Another species learned to bow. Rex had to think quickly. Sometimes the hunter must appear to be prey until the moment of the strike. Zanuck's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Using combat metaphors that the proud warrior could understand, Rex gradually revealed that Earth was not submitting, but preparing. Zanuck's reaction was intense interest mixed with deep skepticism. "Your people fight with cunning rather than claws," Zanuck admitted. "This is not the Drakmari way, but we have learned that claws alone cannot cut quantum shields." "How many ships?" "Do you hide? Enough?" Rex replied. "But we cannot win alone. The prey must coordinate if they are to bring down the predator." Each contact was risky, but the intelligence they provided was invaluable. Rex learned that the Syndicate's empire was far more fragile than it appeared. Each conquered species was held in place by a combination of technological superiority and the threat of overwhelming retaliation. But if that technological advantage could be neutralized, 47 species, all waiting for someone to make the first move, Rex reported to Alina after his return. "They've all tried individual rebellion and failed." "Alina there?" "Not defeated, they're angry." Alina absorbed this information while studying tactical displays that showed Syndicate fleet positions throughout known space. The aliens had made their empire as efficient as possible, using minimal forces to control maximum territory. It was a strategy that worked perfectly against individual species but might be vulnerable to coordinated resistance. "James, how are the quantum transmitters performing?" Dr. Park smiled with satisfaction. Better than we hoped. We now have real-time intelligence from 42 Syndicate installations. Their security is impressive against conventional espionage. But they never considered the possibility of quantum infiltration. Sarah, status on the command virus? Dr. Kim looked up from her workstation, where lines of quantum code scrolled past faster than human eyes could follow. 70% complete. I need 6 more days to finish the final targeting protocols. Elena felt the weight of galactic history settling on her shoulders. In less than a week, humanity would either strike the blow that freed dozens of enslaved species, or they would face extinction for their defiance. There would be no middle ground. Lisa, are our ships ready? Admiral Rodriguez's voice came through the secure quantum channel with military precision.
Ow.
110 vessels fully operational and positioned.
Ow.
Hidden weapon platforms are online throughout the solar system. Earth's space is no longer defensible as a trap. Alina looked around the command center at the faces of the people who had made this miracle possible. Scientists, soldiers, diplomats, and engineers who had worked in absolute secrecy to give their species a fighting chance. Would find out if human ingenuity could triumph over galactic tyranny. Final preparations begin now, Alina announced. We've spent weeks looking weak while growing strong. Time to show the galaxy what humanity is really capable of. Aside, the Syndicate inspector ships continued their routine patrols, confident that they were overseeing another successful conquest. None of them suspected that they were about to become participants in the largest military upset in galactic history. The trap was set. Soon, the hunters would discover they had become the hunted, when humanity showed its true colors. 7 stood on the bridge of the Syndicate flagship Eternal Dominion, watching Earth grow larger on the main display. The planet looked peaceful and defenseless, its blue surface dotted with white clouds and the occasional glint of orbital stations. To the Syndicate's Supreme Commander, it was a familiar sight, another primitive world about to learn the price. Of Defiance, sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human leadership. Reported Communications Officer Dex 3, an insectoid being whose compound eyes could process multiple data streams. Simultaneously, Korth 7 gestured with one of his 4 arms. He had overseen the pacification of 12 worlds personally and had never encountered serious resistance. Display it. President Marcus Chen appeared on the screen, looking haggard and defeated. Behind him, Alina Vasquez and other human officials sat with bowed heads. Admiral Korth 7, Earth formally surrenders to Syndicate authority. We cannot fight your superior forces. Korth 7's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. Last, prepare for full orbital inspection. Any hidden weapons or technology will result in the immediate sterilization of your largest population centers. We understand, Chen replied. Our defense forces are standing down. Please, be merciful. To our people, the transmission ended and Korth 7 turned to his tactical officer. Deploy inspection teams to all major installations. I want a complete inventory of their military capabilities. Something about this feels too easy. Was that President Chen's surrender speech had been broadcast on quantum frequencies throughout Syndicate space. Hidden in the transmission's background radiation was a single quantum pulse, the signal that 47 enslaved species had been waiting decades to receive. On the mining world of Arcturus, Foreman Keth 9 felt the quantum resonance through his crystalline structure. Around him, thousands of stellar workers stopped their digging and looked up at the alien overseers who had tormented them for 30 years. The time of stones is ended, Keth 9 whispered in the ancient stellar language. The time of light begins. In the flooded processing stations of Vega, Captain Yalatu received the signal through bioluminescent sensors that the Syndicate had never bothered to understand. The Aquarian warrior began transmitting her own patterns to every member of her species throughout the system. The tide turns, her lights proclaimed. Deep currents rise. On the fortress world of Drakmari, War Chief Zanuck raised his head and roared a battle cry that echoed through the prisoner barracks. His reptilian warriors, who had been forced to serve as manual laborers, suddenly remembered they were predators. The hunt begins anew, Zanuck bellowed. Show these thieves the fury of the Drakmari? But the most critical moment was happening. In Earth's hidden quantum laboratories, Dr. Sarah Kim sat before a console that hummed with barely contained energy, her fingers dancing over controls that could reshape galactic civilization. Around her, screens displayed the quantum signatures of every syndicate installation within 3,000 light-years. Quantum virus is ready for deployment, Sarah announced to the command center. Once I release it, we'll have approximately 12 minutes before they can begin countermeasures. Alina Vasquez stood beside her, watching as syndicate inspection teams landed on Earth's surface. The aliens were spreading throughout human cities, scanning for hidden weapons and technology. They found exactly what humanity wanted them to find: obsolete equipment and frightened civilians. Admiral Rodriguez, are all units in position? Lena asked. Lisa Rodriguez's voice came through the quantum channel from her flagship hidden in the asteroid belt. All ships ready. Hidden platforms are armed and targeting solutions locked. Alina, once we start this, there's no going back. Alina looked around the command center one final time. The next few minutes, humanity would either liberate the galaxy or face extinction for their defiance. Dr. Kim, you may begin. Sarah's finger hovered over the activation key, then pressed the button. The quantum virus exploded across galactic space faster than light itself. It rode the Syndicate's own communication networks, spreading through every ship, every station, every piece of technology in their empire, but rather gave humanity complete control over them. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, chaos erupted instantly. Warning alarms blared as control systems began responding to commands from Earth rather than their own bridge crew. Weapons powered down, shields flickered, and navigation systems displayed destinations chosen by human operators. What's happening? Korth 7 demanded, but his crew had no answers. Their most advanced technology was turning against them. Sir, we're receiving another transmission from Earth, Dextry reported, his compound eyes reflecting confusion and fear. This time, Alina Vasquez appeared on the screen, but she looked nothing like the defeated diplomat from earlier meetings. Her military uniform was crisp, her bearing confident, and her eyes blazed with determination. Admiral Korth 7, I am Commander Alina Vasquez of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is now under human control. Korth 7's bioluminescent markings flared with rage. Impossible. Your technology is primitive. Lena smiled coldly. You've been thinking about this all wrong, Admiral. You assumed we were primitive because our technology looked different from yours. But there's a reason for that. We actually invent our own equipment.
Oh.
On screens throughout the Syndicate fleet, technical readouts began displaying information that made experienced officers gasp in shock. Earth's quantum technology was centuries ahead of anything in Syndicate databases. Their ships weren't crude metal boxes, but sophisticated vessels using stealth systems that bent spacetime itself. You see, Alina continued, the Syndicate's greatest weakness was also their greatest strength. You became so good at stealing technology that you forgot how to innovate. Every system you use, every weapon you carry, every piece of equipment on your ship, sits all based on designs stolen from other species. Admiral Rodriguez's voice cut through the Syndicate fleet's communication channels. As her ships began decloaking throughout the solar system, Syndicate vessels, you are surrounded by the Earth Defense Force. Your weapons are offline, your shields are down, and your engines are under our control. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to galactic law. Korth 7 stared at his tactical display in disbelief, where moments before there had been empty space. Now hundreds of human warships appeared like ghosts materializing from the void. Each vessel was clearly more advanced than anything in the Syndicate fleet. Their hulls gleaming with exotic materials and their weapons arrays crackling with energy he didn't recognize. This is a trick, he snarled. You cannot have built such a fleet without us knowing. Dr. James Park's voice joined the conversation from his hidden research facility. Actually, we've been building it for years. You were so focused on our primitive technology that you never noticed our real capabilities. Every piece of equipment you examined was exactly what we wanted you to see. The revelation hit Korth 7 like a physical blow. The humans had been playing a game within a game, showing the Syndicate only what they expected to see while hiding their true strength. It was a level of strategic deception that no syndicate species had ever attempted. But the surprises weren't finished. Throughout syndicate space, the enslaved species were rising in coordinated rebellion. The quantum virus had not only disabled syndicate systems, but it also activated hidden communication networks that Rex Thompson had established during his tribute missions. On Arcturus, the stellar miners used their crystalline bodies to create resonance frequencies that shattered syndicate control systems. 30 years of forced labor had taught them exactly where their oppressors were most vulnerable. Within minutes, every syndicate installation on the planet was either destroyed or under stellar control. The stones remember every cut. Keth-9 transmitted to Elena's command center. Stellar forces are free and ready to assist. The Aquarians proved even more devastating to their former masters. Captain Yalatu led her people in turning the water processing stations into weapons, redirecting massive flows of liquid to flood syndicate bases while precisely avoiding civilian areas. Their intimate knowledge of fluid dynamics, combined with their natural ability to operate in aquatic environments, made them unstoppable. The currents flow as we command them, Yalatu reported. Vega system is liberated. But it was the Drakmari who provided the most shocking display of coordinated fury. War Chief Zanuck had spent 5 years studying syndicate military tactics while pretending to be a broken slave. When the uprising began, his warriors struck with precision that terrified their former captors. The hunters have become the hunted. Zanuck's growl echoed through quantum channels. Drakmari fleets are moving to support Earth. Within 2 hours of the quantum virus's release, the Syndicate Empire was collapsing across multiple fronts. Species that had been enslaved for decades were not only breaking free, but actively joining the human-led coalition. The carefully maintained balance of fear and technological superiority that had held the Empire together was crumbling. Korth 7 made one desperate attempt to regain control. All remaining ships, target Earth directly. If we can destroy their command center, his orders were cut short as human voice filled his bridge. Captain Rex Thompson, broadcasting from the disguised warship that had once seemed like a primitive cargo vessel, addressed the Syndicate fleet directly. Admiral, I wouldn't try that if I were you. Every weapon on every ship in your fleet is now slave to our control systems. You pull a trigger, and the only thing you'll hit is your own ships. To prove his point, Rex activated the weapons on a Syndicate destroyer. The ship's plasma cannons fired, but instead of targeting Earth, they struck another Syndicate vessel whose shields had been lowered by the quantum virus. The demonstration was precise and controlled. No one died, but the message was clear. Elena's voice returned to the fleet-wide channel. Syndicate forces, you have 2 choices. Surrender now and face justice for your crimes, or continue fighting and watch as your own weapons destroy your fleet.
Ow.
The response was not what anyone expected.
Ow.
Instead of anger or defiance, many Syndicate officers began expressing relief. Communications Officer Dex 3 was the first to speak up on his ship's bridge. Admiral, he said quietly, perhaps it is time to admit the truth. We are not warriors or explorers. They are parasites, and our hosts have finally developed immunity. Similar conversations were happening throughout the fleet. Many Syndicate personnel had grown tired of their Empire's predatory nature, but had been trapped in a system that demanded constant expansion and exploitation. The sudden reversal of fortune offered them an opportunity to break free from their own destructive cycle. Admiral Korth 7 looked around his bridge at officers who were no longer following his orders. His tactical displays showed Syndicate installations surrendering throughout the galaxy. His weapons were controlled by humans, his ships were surrounded, and his empire was dissolving in real time. How? He asked Elena, his voice containing genuine puzzlement rather than anger. How did you know we would fall for your deception? Elena's expression softened slightly. Because you made the same mistake that bullies always make, Admiral. You assumed that appearing weak meant being weak. Humanity learned long ago that sometimes the best strategy is to let your enemy underestimate you until the moment you strike. President Chen appeared beside Elena on the screen, looking nothing like the defeated leader who had surrendered hours earlier. The Syndicate Empire is finished, Admiral. But that doesn't mean your people have to be. We're offering a different path forward. Representative Yuki Tanaka stepped forward, a young diplomat who had been chosen to represent humanity's vision for the future. We propose the formation of a free worlds coalition and alliance based on cooperation rather than domination. Species gets an equal voice, and technological advancement is shared freely rather than stolen. The offer was revolutionary in its scope. Instead of simply replacing one empire with another, humanity was proposing to fundamentally change how galactic civilization operated. The response from the former Syndicate territories was overwhelmingly positive. Over the following days, representatives from dozens of species traveled to Earth for the founding conference of the Free Worlds Coalition. The gathering was unlike anything in galactic history. Former enemies, working together to build a society based on mutual respect and shared knowledge, Dr. Sarah Kim found herself at the center of the new alliance's technological sharing program. The quantum communication network we've built can connect every member world instantly, she explained to a mixed group of human and alien scientists. Instead of hoarding discoveries, we can share breakthroughs across the galaxy in real time. The results were immediate and spectacular. Stellar crystalline technology, combined with human quantum physics, produced power sources that were both incredibly efficient and environmentally safe. Aquarian fluid dynamics merged with Dracomari metallurgy created new alloys that were stronger than any previously known materials. Each species contributed their unique strengths to the collective knowledge base. Admiral Korth 7, now a war crimes defendant awaiting trial, watched these developments with a mixture of amazement and regret. In one of his final interviews, he made a statement that would be remembered throughout galactic history. "We spent 1,000 years stealing the innovations of others," he said quietly. "In 3 months, these humans and their allies have made more genuine progress than we achieved in centuries. We were not advanced, we were just very good thieves." The trial of Syndicate leadership became a galaxy-wide event, broadcast to every world in the new coalition. Rather than seeking revenge, the allied species focused on justice and rehabilitation. Many former Syndicate officials were sentenced to community service, helping to rebuild the worlds they had exploited. Alina Vasquez found herself appointed as the first Supreme Coordinator of the Free Worlds Coalition, a position she accepted. Reluctantly, humanity didn't free the galaxy to rule it, she said in her acceptance speech. "We did it because freedom is a right that belongs to every sentient being." The transformation was so complete that within a year, the galaxy barely resembled its former state. Trade routes that had once been controlled by Syndicate monopolies became open highways for all species. Worlds that had been strip-mined for tribute began environmental restoration projects using shared technologies. Species that had been enemies for generations found common ground in their commitment to cooperation. But perhaps the most significant change was philosophical. The Syndicate had ruled through fear, convincing species that they needed protection from imaginary threats. The Free Worlds Coalition operated on the principle that diversity of thought and approach made everyone stronger. Captain Rex Thompson, now commanding the exploration vessel New Horizons on a genuine mission of discovery, summed up the transformation during a speech at the 1-year anniversary celebration. "The Syndicate taught the galaxy to be afraid of each other," he said, addressing representatives from over 100 species. "Humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't our technology or our military strength. It was our refusal to accept that the strong must prey upon the weak." Dr. James Park, working on a joint research project with Stellar, Aquarian, and Dracmari scientists, offered his own perspective. "The Syndicate's greatest mistake was believing that taking from others made them stronger. True strength comes from lifting others up and watching them succeed." As the celebrations continued throughout Coalition space, Alina stood on the observation deck of the new Galactic Council station. Built in neutral space between Earth and the former Syndicate core worlds, the view showed ships from dozens of species working together on construction projects, their crews learning from each other and building something greater than any of them could achieve alone. "Commander," came a familiar voice behind her. Lena turned to see Dr. Sarah Kim approaching, carrying a datapad filled with reports from across the galaxy. "What's the status, Sarah?" "Better than we ever dreamed," Sarah replied with a smile. "Technological advancement is accelerating exponentially. We're seeing breakthroughs in medicine, energy, space travel, and artificial intelligence. When species share knowledge instead of hoarding it, everyone benefits. Alina nodded, but her expression remained thoughtful. And the former syndicate species, how are they adapting? Remarkably well. Turns out that most of them were just as tired of the old system as their victims were. Given the chance to contribute rather than exploit, they're proving to be valuable allies. As if summoned by their conversation, Representative Yuki Tanaka approached with news from the latest council session. The Rigel system just voted to join the coalition, she announced. That makes 137 member worlds. Lena felt a surge of pride and hope. Humanity had entered galactic civilization, facing extinction or slavery. Instead, they had helped create a society where every species could thrive. It was proof that sometimes the smallest acts of defiance could reshape the universe. Any word from the exploration fleets? Lena asked. Admiral Rodriguez reports first contact with 3 new species in the Outer Rim, Yuki replied. All 3 have expressed interest in coalition membership after learning about our principles. Alina smiled, imagining the galaxy continuing to grow and evolve as more species joined their alliance. The syndicate had spread through conquest and fear, as the Free Worlds Coalition was spreading through example and hope. As night fell over the council station, Alina looked out at the stars and thought about the journey that had brought them here. Humanity had been given an ultimatum: bow or die. Instead, they had chosen a third option: change the rules of the game entirely. The galaxy would never be the same. For the first time in 1,000 years, that was a reason for celebration. Rather than fear,